Okay, before we start the video, I want to just start off by saying on record, I will hate every second of this episode.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Nope, don't you dare. I'm gonna be both happy and sad about this. The sad part is, these shows exist, I did watch it, and I actually enjoyed the show. The happy part is, I'm getting this over with, and I won't have to talk about it ever again.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
You're not a part of this video, wait your turn! Let's get this over with already. Hey, hi, howdy, and hello. Welcome everyone to episode 3 of LOZ D&D, the black sheep of the series where I compare Link's item inventory from The Legend of Zelda, the animated TV show, and the 4-episode cameo of Captain N, the Game Master show. I'm going on record to say I hate this show because of the memes, as well as the 3 CDI games. But I'm still gonna play them just to give them a chance to experience them. Oh boy, will it be fun. I will definitely appreciate all the other games from that point on. Anyway, got that out of my system, let's move on. In both of the shows, there are a good handful of items, but I'm gonna focus primarily on the ones Link uses or has on hand. There are other items he interacts with, but they are quickly used and don't really get any other use after the episode, so I won't be counting some of them. To begin this list, let's start off with the backstory. Much like any other Zelda game, the lore behind the show is similar. A version of Ganon wants the Triforce, and only in this case, he has the Triforce of Power, and it's the Triforce of Wisdom he needs. So, this has to take place somewhere before or between Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. There is an image that somebody made, and I like how they added the shows as part of a silly era timeline. That said, let's get back to the backstory. The backstory being no different to Zelda 1, in most of the episodes, Ganon and his minions try to take the Triforce of Wisdom so that Ganon can control all of Hyrule. This show was 13 episodes long and was unfortunately considered a failure and promptly cancelled, only getting a 4 cameo episode in the new show, Captain N, the Game Master show. In the first cameo episode, Quest for the Potion of Power, Ganon is dead, but is brought back to life. The second cameo, Once Upon a Time Machine, the main character loses his equipment and Link assists him in getting it back. The third cameo, Having a Ball, sorry. The complete Triforce is stolen and the characters work together to get it back. And the last one, the Trojan Dragon, for only a few minutes, both Link and Zelda assist the protagonist in stopping the evil villain. Now, with the backstory over, let's get into the meat of the video, starting with the Zelda TV show.
Excuse me, princess.
Shut it!
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
Shut up! Sorry about that, wrong Link. Nope! Away with you! Back, I say! Return back to the pit of which you came! Okay, so the first item on this list is... Wait here, hold on, let me see, give me a second, look at the script. It says right here, act shock and or surprise. Okay, here we go. Gasp! His pockets! Thank you. Oscar-worthy performance, I know. Now, this is genuinely quite a shocking surprise, but in the show, we are actually given a demonstration on how Link is able to carry so many items around. In one of the episodes, we actually see Link pull items out of his pockets that are shrunk and then enlarged to normal size. Zeltic, who is a big fan and content creator of The Legend of Zelda, did note that in one of his videos how Link's pockets could be magical.
Other Hylians presumably can't magically store items, as some use pack animals or carts, so perhaps it isn't only a game mechanic, but an actual magical ability of Link's.
And the fact that Link's items do shrink right before he gets them near the opening of his pockets. Now, like always, the bag of holding is the best carrying case. That always helps D&D characters with carrying large or heavy items. The level of the bag depends on how much you can carry from level 1 all the way to level 4, ranging from price, carrying capacity, space, and weight of the bag itself. Here's the chart. Level 1, the weight's bag, 15 pounds. Carrying weight, 250 pounds. Space, 30 cubic feet. Price, 2,500 gold pieces. Level 2, bag's weight, 25 pounds. Carrying weight, 500 pounds. Space, 70 cubic feet. Price, 5,000 gold pieces. Level 3, bag's weight, 35 pounds. Carrying weight, 1,000 pounds. Space, 150 cubic feet. Price, 7,400 gold pieces. Level 4, bag's weight, 60 pounds. Carrying weight, 1,500 pounds. Space, 250 cubic feet. Price, 10,000 gold pieces. Now then, the ability that I think Link uses to grow and shrink his items for D&D would be the Enlarge Reduce spell. This is a second level transmutation spell, and it takes 1 action to cast with a range of 30 feet. The duration is concentration or up to 1 minute, and the components are V, S, and M. The spell causes an object or creature you see within range to either grow or shrink for the length of the spell's time. The reduce effect, specifically when the target is hit, halves its size in all dimensions, weight, and is shrunk to 1/8 of its normal height. An example would be a large target turning medium, medium to small, and small to tiny. Until the spell's end, the target has disadvantage on strength checks and saving throws. Its weapon also shrinks, and its attack deals 1d4 instead of its normal damage dealing amount. Okay, so the next item on this list would be his clothes or tunic. Link, from what I can tell, is wearing a hat, an undershirt, a very long overshirt, pants, belt, and boots. Not really sure on the socks. They don't seem to be special or unique, so they could be just more akin to common D&D clothes or traveling clothes, especially since Link travels in them. The average cost of traveler's clothes cost 2 gold pieces, weigh about 4 pounds, and usually comprise of a set of clothes consisting of boots, a wool skirt or breeches, a sturdy belt, a shirt, perhaps with a vest or jacket, and a coat with a hood. Now, I was very surprised that the rupee was in the show, and it actually is pretty cool. In the episode The White Knight, the rupee appears in the form of loot. Now, when finding currency in D&D, it was difficult to determine what type it would be until I found gemstones. It was reasonable to think that the gemstones could be currency, as they could buy and sell them for platinum, gold, electrum, silver, and copper. That said, let's not get into net worth, material, and all that other stuff. Matt Pat over at Game Theory already made a video about the rupee. Link in the description. Let's move on from that. Alright, for this next item, I'm going to be combining 2 of them because, well, they basically look the same. That said, in the show, the main sword Link uses is never swung at enemies except to block or parry attacks, and also instead used primarily to shoot sword beams at his enemies. The Chris sword and the sword both look at best to be short swords, and so the D&D equivalent would be the short sword. The short sword costs 10 gold pieces, weighs 2 pounds, and does 1d6 slashing damage, and again, this Link doesn't swing. Okay, now, I mentioned before that Link's sword shoots sword beams, and well, the sword beam ability would be the power beam. It's a cantrip with a range of 60 feet, and hits at 1d8, and at level 5, you can add your spellcasting modifier. And at levels 11 and 17, you can add an extra 1d8. Moving on to the next item, this Link has the magical shield. Now, I wanted to point out something that was years in the making. Shield bomb surfing. It first appeared in this show and was as amazing as it looked. The prophecy has been fulfilled. Now, with that said, the shield that best equates to Link's magical shield is the Spell Guard shield. For those who think defense is the best offense, this is that shield, but it will cost you 50,000 gold pieces to be exact, so not cheap whatsoever. But to help prove how good the shield is, it gives you advantage on saving throws against spells, disadvantage of spell attacks made against you, and of course it gives you +2 to your AC. Okay, here we go with an item that has blasted its way not just in the first Zelda game, but also in the very first episode of the Zelda show. In the show, Hitch in the Works, we can see Link use a bomb that he has within his pockets and performs the technique that many people use in Breath of the Wild. This item is what I mentioned in combination with the shield to perform the shield bomb surfing technique. The bomb can be used for more strategic planning in the games, as well as the show. It can be used for opening caves, removing obstacles, and killing enemies. That being said, bombs in D&D can work in similar ways, but cost 150 gold pieces, weigh 1 pound, and it can be thrown up to 60 feet with a radius blast of 5 feet, dealing 3d6 fire damage, but on a failed saving throw, or half if you pass the DC 12 saving throw. In the episode Underworld Connection, Link actually uses the bow and arrow for all of like 2 minutes, and it basically looks like the short bow. It was the only reasonable thing that made sense. The short bow costs 25 gold pieces, weighs 2 pounds, the range is 80 to 320 feet, and the arrow itself weighs 1 pound, costs 1 gold piece per round, and does 1d6 piercing damage. The next weapon in Link's armory we'll talk about is the boomerang, which is a famous weapon that some to most Links get within dungeons. But in this case, the magical boomerang has some neat abilities like stunning big enemies, killing smaller enemies, reaching and retrieving items from far away, and is even strong enough to trigger switches. In the show, specifically in the Stinging a Stinger episode, it is the only time Link uses it, but it does appear in several other episodes mainly used by Zelda. The D&D item that represents the boomerang would be the Boomerang of Retrieval. It costs 5 gold pieces, weighs 1 pound, has a range of 30 to 120 feet, and it does 1d6 plus 1 bludgeoning damage and returns to sender on both a hit and a missed hit. In the show, there are 2 times that the rope has made an appearance, but the first time is when Link uses it in the episode The White Knight to tie up an Octorok, only to then be dragged by it. Now with the D&D rope, it has to be magical, and it was difficult to determine which magical rope fit the profile. but ultimately the rope of entanglement was fitting. The rope of entanglement is a 30-foot rope weighing 3 pounds that entangles a creature within 20 feet of it when you speak the command word, and the creature needs to make a DC 15 saving throw or is restrained. The rope itself does have health and AC, which is really cool, and both are 20 HP and 20 AC, and it can heal itself 1 HP every 5 minutes as long as it has 1 HP, because if it gets hit down to 0 points, it will be destroyed. Music is a staple in the Zelda series, and to continue the long line of musical instruments, the recorder or flute in the show has a very neat property that carries over from the very first game. The flute shows up in the episode Sing for the Unicorn, where Link finds it after defeating a couple of Lynels. The flute, when used, creates a tornado and warps or teleports the group out of the underworld. So it was really difficult to find a recorder or flute that has that same ability. I racked my brain trying to find one with its ability until I just realized that the flute has the ability fused into it, and it gives access to the ability. So the flute itself weighs 1 pound, is made of metal or wood, and costs 2 gold pieces. Now, for the ability, that would be the Vortex Warp spell. It takes 1 action to cast, the range is 90 feet, components are V and S, and the duration is instant. The Vortex Warp spell twists space around a creature that has to make a con saving throw or be teleported to an unoccupied space. Casting the spell using a 2nd level spell slot or higher will result in the range of the movement increased by 30 feet. Now, I'm not a fashionable person myself, but Link sure is. That said, Link gets this bracelet from a defeated Darknut, and does use it later on in the episode, that sinking feeling. The bracelet gives the user super strength for 1 minute. So what great power compares to this? That would be the Power the Bracelets of Incredible Power. This item increases the wearer's strength to 21 and lets the wearer perform the ability to throw weapons with range as if they were projectile weapons. These items cost a total of 18,000 gold pieces, and the weight is a whopping 2 pounds. How handy. Rings are used a lot in the Zelda games, with most or nearly all of them being magical in one way or another, and in the show, it's no different. The Force Field Ring is an item that Link gets from a defeated Moblin in the episode Doppelganger. This ring makes a force field that protects its user from any attack. So what D&D item does the same thing? That would be the Ring of Magical Shield. The ring is an iron band that generates the Wall of Force spell at will or on a free action. Due to it being weightless, there is no penalty or fail checks, and it acts as a heavy shield, so it gives you +2 to AC, and this item costs 8,500 gold pieces. The Compass. The Compass is an item in the Zelda universe that can be found in dungeons to help navigate its interior. That said, the magic compass in the episode Underworld Connection indicate the location of the 2 Triforce shards in the underworld. Now that is quite useful, but normal compasses in D&D don't function that way, but they can point north, south, east, and west. It weighs 1/4 pound and costs 100 gold pieces and gives you advantage on wisdom survival checks. However, there was a compass I did find called the Seeker's Compass. This item seems to be like any other compass, but it has images of constellations on the inside. But to really use it, the bearer must concentrate on a person, object, or location for 1 minute, and the compass points in its approximate direction. However, if you're not specific, the compass would just point into the nearest object that fits the bill. The sword. The sword in the Zelda TV show is introduced in the episode Stinging a Stinger, where Link saves a peddler and he offers Link to trade his Chris sword for this garbage sword. From what I can tell, it looks a lot like the short sword, and an awful one at that. You know, because it breaks so easily in the show. I did compare it to the short sword, and we already went over that information, so let's skip over it. In the show, there are fairies, and in most of the episodes, Sprite, not the soda, is one of Link's companions, and she was first introduced in the very first episode, and she usually helps Link whenever she can. Now, when thinking about a D&D equivalent, the best thing I could find was an NPC fairy. It's pretty fitting, and that's literally the most logical thing I could think of, so let's move right along. Alright, now with the last item being the Triforce, I am going to hold off on it. With that being the case, let's move on to the next show, Captain N, the Game Master Show, where Link and Zelda make cameos in 3 episodes. The 3 episodes are Quest for the Potion of Power, Once Upon a Time Machine, Having a Ball. Okay, immaturity out of the way, and Trojan Dragon. Some of the items I'll be going over are repeats, so I'll just mention them real quick and then move on. The first item we'll go over is the magical sword. Now, there isn't anything special other than the fact that it can shoot sword beams, but in this case he actually uses it as a sword. As in, he'll actually swing it instead of just blocking or parrying or just primarily using the beam sword ability all the damn time. But we already talked about the sword beam ability already, so let's move on. Like the magical sword in Zelda 1, the D&D weapon I compared it to was the longsword. The cost of the longsword is 15 gold pieces. It does 1d8 slashing damage, but due to it being a versatile weapon, it can also do 1d10 instead. Okay, so the next item on this list is Link's magical shield, but I already talked about it, so let's move right along down the list. Maps are a staple in the Zelda series. They help Link traverse all of Hyrule and any other lands in the Zelda world. In the episode Quest for the Potion of Power, Kevin and his group, after defeating a group of moblins, save a woman who has a map. Once they obtain the map, it leads them to the Golden Key. Now, a map in D&D gives you an automatic success on any wisdom survival check when on the road or in the wilderness. The map is pretty large, which may give the reason why it weighs 2 pounds. Because it has to be well detailed, the price for a map like this costs 50 gold pieces. Backup bottles are always needed in each Zelda game, but technically in the show we only see 2 bottled up potions. One being the Potion of Power, and the other one is a magical bottle that has the Reflect spell. Now, the bottle itself I had to find the equivalent for, but what was inside it had me confused. The bottle was basically an empty jar made of glass. It weighs 2 pounds, costs 2 gold pieces, and holds 1.5 pints of liquid. That said, the Reflect spell was inside that magical bottle that Kevin found. He lets Link use it, and so it casts the Reflect spell. Now the D&D spell, the Reflect spell is a 5th level abjuration spell. The cast time is 1 reaction, the range is 60 feet, the component is S, and the duration is instantaneous. You can reflect spells that are 5th level or lower that will affect you back to sender. Any spells 6th or higher must make a DC 12 plus spell level. Believe me when I say performing this spell is extremely dangerous, so please don't do anything stupid or reckless at home. Do it at a friend's house. This next item can be found in dungeons and are usually found in chests in other games in the series. In this case, in the episode Quest for the Potion of Power, it is found in an orb guarded by a horse head. The golden key is used to open the golden door, our original, where they find the potion of power in order to prevent Ganon's revival, which I still have to question because he does end up getting revived anyways, so the whole quest was pointless unless they wanted to take it and destroy it in order to prevent his revival, or I don't even know. I'm not getting into this, let's move on. The only thing I can think of that resembles the golden key would be the D&D lock and key. Best I can come up with anyway, so nah. The lock and key are a combo set. They weigh 1 pound, cost 10 gold pieces, so pretty good deal if I do say so myself. Okay, the next item on this list is in the same episode. It is the parchment. The parchment in the show is what gives Kevin and Link directions to where the golden door is located, and where they can find the potion of power. In D&D, paper is what I could find. The parchment doesn't seem to be magical, so I figured it would have just been paper. In D&D, it's just a standard cloth fiber, costs 5 gold pieces. What a deal. Alright, here we go again for the 3rd time in a row. The listed item that I said I'd leave for last for the Zelda show, because in the Captain N show it ends up being a big deal. The last item on both of these lists is the Triforce. In the Zelda show, all we see is the Triforce of Wisdom and the Triforce of Power. And the Triforce of Courage is actually missing, which is a bit odd. So for sure, this has to be after Zelda 1, but before Zelda 2. I won't go into too much depth on the Triforce until I get to A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time. But in the show, the Triforce of Power and Wisdom give its users unparalleled wisdom and power, respectively. Now, sadly in the show, Link constantly screws up and prevents Zelda from obtaining the Triforce of Power, and always ends up having the Triforce of Wisdom taken nearly all the damn time. Come on, dude. But in the Captain N show, he finally grows up, matures, and ends up getting the Triforce of Power and kills Ganon. About damn time, dude. And we actually see the Triforce of Courage, so the Captain N show is definitely after Zelda 2, at least timeline wise, if the show is canon to the entire series. It's finally over, and it was very painful having to do this. With this episode over, the next video I'll be going over is A Link to the Past. I know I mentioned in episode 2 part 2 I'd go over A Link to the Past, but I wanted to get this episode done and out of the way with, and release date wise the show did come out before A Link to the Past. So yeah. Well, with that said, this is all the Zelda items, tools, gear, equipment, abilities, weapon, armor, and skills from The Legend of Zelda, the animated TV show, and the Captain N, the Game Master show cameos. I could find, think of, research, and then compare to D&D items. This item was a little longer than I thought it would have been, and I'm glad I made it into a one-parter. I, once again, unfortunately, did enjoy the show, and now the memes are probably going to haunt me for the next ever. With that out of the way, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button to help support future videos, and share this video with your friends, family, and other like-minded people. And leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts or opinions of what I got right, wrong, or missed on the list, and what a different D&D item that would have been a better choice. Thank you for watching once again, thank you for your support, and for watching. Have a great time zone, stay frosty everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!